Oh, Bayer Leverkusen won, Arsenal won. The 100% winning record in Europe is over. I don't know about you, Jonny. I am still sitting in the feelings of that being a 1-0 defeat. But it wasn't. It was a draw. It was a laboured one. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I'm relieved. I mean, I was almost accepting that we're going to lose and we're going to turn it around. We're going to have to turn it around. But that would have been giving ourselves a lot of work to do. So I'm very relieved that this isn't as... It's not going to be straightforward, but it's not as dramatic potentially as it could be next week because, you know, we can start thinking about Everton. If we'd lost, that would have been a big... I think that would have overshadowed and carried on later into the week. And as you know this season, discourse around Arsenal is very important and it is very impactful to our players. So not losing, they played better than us. They probably deserved the win. But we didn't lose, just like Barca against Newcastle last night. We found a way of not losing, which is important.
I think you're right. I think keeping that air of being so difficult to beat is a really important thing for ourselves as much as for the optics of people around who are kind of looking to beat us. I think that's really important. It was perhaps indicative of the way I'm feeling now is maybe a sign that we underestimated Bayer Leverkusen a little bit. They beat Man City, obviously, at the Etihad earlier in the season. They got the joint best defensive record at home in the Bundesliga with Borussia Dortmund, just 11 conceded. And they're very clearly a team who are tough to break down. They play that three-man defence with the two wing-backs, and they were really, really comfortable at 1-0. And I did worry that we were going to get into a situation where it's like, oh my God, we were assuming that we're not going to face this kind of low block situation in Europe that we've been facing in the Premier League. And there was a little bit of danger that came back in. We were saying before the game, weren't we, that we've not had a penalty in ages. And it really, really does feel like getting away with one there.
100%. They were really impressive. I think they shocked us a little bit. In the early stages of the game, I was watching it. It was quite an open game for an Arsenal game of late. And we both were playing good bits of football and combining well, and there was some fluid attacking football, more from them in that first half, and especially in the opening exchanges. But I think they surprised us. And it doesn't help. A lot of times this season, our forwards have flattered to deceive or have been under par. And tonight was one of those games where you kind of needed your best players to stand up and they didn't.
Yeah.
So... And when that happens, you normally lose. So that's why I feel so relieved getting a draw out of that game because no one really played well. Eze had moments, maverick moments, couple touches and, flashes of brilliance. But there wasn't really much to hang your hat on in terms of a performance from most of our players offensively tonight.
Yeah, I would completely agree offensively. I thought the defenders and defensive midfielders, obviously Rice and Zubimendi put in the shift that you normally expect from them. Let's look at their goal first. Because after a first half that was fairly even, as you've mentioned, and had that one moment of quality that ended up with Gabriel Martinelli hitting the bar, which is a really, really great passage of play and showed Arsenal's best kind of passing game that I think we've not really seen enough of lately, particularly because, when perhaps not getting the space to do it. And as you say, a lot of the forward players are kind of a little bit below par at the moment. It felt like it could go either way after that first half, but I still felt quietly confident that we'd be able to grind it if we needed. But pretty much immediately, we don't really look like we're ready for the second half to start. And
that was a clear instruction from the Leverkusen manager to go out and almost, because there was moments, like I said, in the first half where it looked like, they're actually coming to play. We got more space than we're used to. So we started reacting. We weren't prepared for that sort of game. And in the second half was like the manager told the Leverkusen boys, go out and go for the jugular again, straight down the middle, because there was so much space centrally in central areas for both teams in that first half. So they attacked down the middle, won the corner from it. And then I don't know what happened at the back post. I don't know whether Eze slipped or didn't pick up his man, but it's not very like us to have a spare man unmarked at the back post, because we don't concede those goals. That was like going back 10 years watching Arsenal with that corner goal to concede. So and then that sort of it got a reaction out of us, but not the reaction I expected. And it was still more Saka not being great, Gyökeres the ball not sticking as per usual, not laying it off correctly. There was a lack of fluidity. And really, like we say, it wasn't until Noni Madueke came on that we started to react properly and started to look like we had any sort of real danger or threat that we could hurt by Leverkusen.
Yeah, Saka's performance was interesting. You're right to bring him in. I think he was involved in that Martinelli moment where he hit the bar in the first half that we mentioned. But generally, he seemed a little slow in his decision making. He was, doubled or trebled up on fairly regularly, which is obviously a smart thing to do from Leverkusen. Clearly a canny team, especially defensively. But he didn't have his best night.
I feel like sometimes he looks like he's carrying a knock, and I don't want to put that on him, but tonight, he struggled to accelerate and to make decisions quickly. He felt like he was a step off. Yeah. And he didn't improve. Normally, if he starts badly, Saka is actually a player that can overcome that and improve later in the game, and it just never came. Like, he's, as I said, there was countless times when I thought, Saka, you could play that ball down there, or you don't have to take an extra touch. And he did, and he got outnumbered and dealt with and struggled to beat his man and made the... So, yeah, but it was good today because when your star man isn't performing, most teams don't have a player to come in and deputise and actually up the levels. And today we did.
And we've been crying out for that for seasons, for someone who's a viable alternative to Saka, not just to share his minutes, but to come on and make contributions if he's unable to for whatever reason. And I think with Saka as well, it's easy to forget that he's not just coming back from an injury, sort of, mid to longer term. He's coming back from a surgery. Yeah. And I guess it's easy to forget, isn't it, as kind of mere mortals, how impactful that can be. If you have surgery in your life for any reason, it's a big deal. And that's no different for a footballer. So I'm wondering if perhaps his body is getting back up to speed and if he's still not quite at the kind of the level that he's been at before that.
Yeah, I feel as though you can see him snatching at. He knows the expectation he puts on himself because he knows he's a captain first and foremost, but he's our best offensive player, so he wants to do more. And sometimes, when you try and grab a bar of soap, the harder you grab it, the more likely it's going to slip out your hand. And that is kind of how it felt like tonight with Saka in terms of that performance.
Or to pick up a ping pong ball, which there is simply no dignified way to do, even if you're good at ping pong.
Exactly.
I think it is one of those penalties where you'll be annoyed if it goes against you, but also I'm happy with it. I'm fine.
Oh yeah, we take it every day of the week, and he earned it. Yeah. If it had been a sort of disputable decision where nothing had happened, or it was a sort of a nothing moment, he really worked his way into the box and left Tillman on his arse, scratching around to try, and he didn't make any contact with the ball. So he beat his man and won it.
There was an angle where it looked like he did get a little bit of a touch of the ball, but he also got enough of the man for me to go, penalty in the Champions League, yes, thank you very much. Yeah. Take that all day. I was very, very nervous for Kai Havertz in that situation.
Oh my God.
I don't know if you saw before the game when he was on the bench, there were so many photographers around him. Obviously, it's a massive story, him coming back to Leverkusen because he left during the lockdown, so they didn't get to have this proper goodbye. And he spent, I think, 10 years at the club because he'd been there since he was very, very young and presumably 6'4" then as well. So I just felt like, he's never a player who fills me with confidence from the penalty spot. No. And it wasn't a clinical penalty. He had enough power on it that was fine. But that was a bit of a heart-in-mouth moment as well.
It was a heart-in-mouth moment, and it took 7 hours for him to take it as well. And it wasn't his fault. And I think that was deliberate by Leverkusen. They were jostling on the edge of the box, and the referee took ages to lift his whistle to his mouth, and then took really long to actually blow it. And then he took his time. But when he got the ball, I was really worried about him taking it. I was thinking anyone but him, or Jesus, to be fair. But he looked really sort of confident. When I looked at him, he was very still and sort of motionless and stoic. And I was thinking, go on, you've grown up with this injury, ain't you, Havertz, mate? Maybe you have got something for us. I thought, I was waiting. We were saying, watching the game, get Kai on. It wasn't working for Gyökeres. Another game without a shot. I'm not digging him out again. But it was a game where your striker had to contribute. You had to you needed someone to knit things together at the top of the pitch, and he could do that. And I don't get it wrong, he didn't do much else other than the penalty when he was on. But I wanted him on. I thought he would against, there's this long record, every player seems to score against their old club. It was bound to happen. Get him on earlier, and hopefully he starts next week because,
Yeah, I think there was an interesting moment early on with Gyökeres when Robert Andrich, the Leverkusen captain, who is a terrifying man to look at, proper like north of the wall Game of Thrones vibe to that guy. He got a booking essentially and a warning for a foul that would have been a second yellow at any other time during the game after 5 minutes. And I was looking at that thinking, he's sticking to Gyökeres. He's clearly going to man mark him, or at least, make a beeline for him if he's presenting any danger. And I felt like that was an opportunity to really make Andrić in particular walk a tightrope. And it just didn't really happen after that.
It didn't. And it was funny because there's times where the simple things, if things aren't going well for you as a striker and you feel detached and isolated and you waiting for your moment, you can do the simple things well. And there was a couple of times where we had the opportunity to lay the ball off simple passes and he didn't do well. And you sort of know, Arteta probably knows it's not going to be your day. So I thought he took his time making that Havertz sub. And in the end, it ended up paying off. But yeah, it didn't feel like a game for Gyökeres tonight.
No,
for me.
There is a sense, isn't there, that at some point our attacking players are going to have to click and they are going to have to be a bit more fluent, and we're going to need to win a game 3 or 4-0 to boost that confidence. And now the Premier League in particular is quite unusual this season. There haven't actually been that many games where one team has won by a big scoreline. It's very, very tight across the board. So, and we've managed to do that a couple of times. So that perhaps has to be factored in. But again, we're fighting on 4 fronts here. So at some point, surely, this is probably the purist in me, and this is also the football fan that wants to live a charmed existence where it isn't as stressful as this. But I just feel that we need a run of games where actually we look like we're impossible to beat. And that's happening in a defensive sense, but that isn't yet the platform for the kind of free-flowing Brazil 1970 football that I desperately want to be in there. I'm trying to make my peace with the idea that maybe it's not, and that every game is going to be a grind. I was hoping that this wouldn't be such a grind because of the way that the group stage went, but I think, again, the group stage and the knockout stage with a new format, more so than even before, is so different. And this is perhaps an indication that maybe the European season will be similar to the Premier League season if we indeed do manage to get through the next round against Leverkusen, or the next leg rather. Yeah.
I agree. I don't feel. I mean, you say that. I mean, Bayern went to Atalanta last night and won 6-0. So, but like I said at the top of the show,
6-1. They got their one.
They got their one. Oh, fair enough. Good on you, Atalanta.
Can't blame you for forgetting it though.
But yeah, I mean, I said at the top of the show, Barca and Newcastle last night. Newcastle outplayed, played them off the park. Yamal was awful until the penalty.
Lewis Hall was brilliant,
and Lewis Hall was it. And they somehow got it. But this is what it's cup competition, and this is going to be. You're not going to be free flowing and win every game like we did in the group stages. It's going to be a lot more difficult. I definitely feel.
As we know, Luke was at the game in Leverkusen, and for most of the game, or certainly most of the second half, we were like, I really feel for him here.
Yeah.
I really feel for him here. He's obviously got something to cheer, and he sent us a message. So this is what he had to say.
Right, that's me walking away from the stadium. Arsenal won. Leverkusen won. Another one of those games, isn't it, really? I think they did very well against us. Very, very pleased we got that in the end. I was right next to, obviously, with the away end where we saw Madueke go down. I didn't know if maybe he got a touch of the ball. But yes, very relieved. I think that's a good result to take back to the Emirates. I mean, Madueke, man, what a performance. Came on and made a world of difference. Just seems to be a lot more of these performances where we don't seem to be able to create a lot of chances. When we do create a chance, it's a lot of fun, isn't it? It's very enjoyable. Anyway, as an experience, it's got barged by a Leverkusen fan. Really enjoyed it. Going away, it's cool, man. The atmosphere is really nice, very old school. Singing songs all the time. Didn't sit down once. Seats were very comfortable anyway. But we're treated very well by the Germans. Anyway, lots of love. Miss you all. Bye-bye.
Well, it sounds like you had a good time.
It does. At the start of it, sounded like you just done Tough Mudder, but halfway through. But yes, big up Luke. I genuinely, when he scored, we both said it. At least Luke got a goal because he's gone a long way, and I wanted him to make sure his first European away experience with the Arsenal.
Yeah, and I mean, it's what you sign up to, isn't it? When you go to any away game, that it could could go against you, but I'm thrilled for him that it hasn't gone that way.
Yeah.
I think he makes a good point as well about the kind of lack of chance creation. We've kind of covered it already. Hopefully, I'm going to go back to that. Hopefully, we are going to get a little period soon where we see a little bit more of that. Now, before the game, Bayer Leverkusen engaged in some more banter. They put a no corners allowed sign on the corner spot, then scored from a corner. So if that was... Maybe it's a stretch to say that was a mind game that paid off. That wasn't so great in terms of, official football club account banter. But they also shared the video of Arteta and the light bulb from the All or Nothing documentary and followed it with the video of them taping over all the plugs in the dressing room, which I did quite like.
Yeah, it was good.
I thought that actually was pretty good. So fair enough, fair play, odds even. I hope that we don't try to return the favour on that.
I've got to say, German clubs are really good at the banter side of it because they don't have any of the needle in it. They see the humour. So I get that. They pick up on what is, these mad English people are discussing these topics. We'll pick up the humour and we'll get involved and have a little bit of a laugh with it. There isn't as much sort of resentment and bitterness that comes from our rival fans in this country. So I love it. And they look like it just, even the way they gave Kai that, they celebrated Kai before the game and it just seemed like a nice club, if I'm honest. I like Leverkusen as it goes. And banter us as much as you like. Obviously, we will knock you out next Tuesday. But honestly, great competitors.
Yeah, there's a strange thing with German teams, and I've seen it many times when German teams have come to the Emirates as well, and you hear it on the highlights. Quite often, they will have 3 or 4 chants, and they just cycle through them the whole game. And they're often they're almost like, if not quite nursery rhymes, but very sort of gentle, very well-known songs. And it always seems very quaint and very twee. And you're right, there's less of that kind of aggy sort of nastiness.
It's a community feel in German football. It's what we kind of probably had, pre-hooliganism. We might have had here, but it feels like every club feels like a family-run club. They've obviously got the fan participation in terms of how the clubs are running and a lot of the German football structures of the club, sorry. So, it's just they do football properly. The stadiums are sick. I think if we get knocked out next week, I won't be saying this. No. I won't be giving them these glowing reviews, but it was, I can't say a bad word about them tonight.
So how do you see it going next week, based on what we've seen tonight?
Based on what we've seen tonight, I think we approached the game very differently. We got away with one tonight. We really did. We should have lost that game. We got away with one. We approach it more seriously. Now, don't get me wrong. We've got Everton sandwiched in between. Everton are very good away, a Premier League team, a very physical team. And that is going to be a very demanding game
Huge
for us.
Game.
And it's equivalently, we've got 3 of these games in 6 games, including this one, in 6 days, sorry. So, we're not going to have the energy levels, but this is what going for quad's about. You're going to have to find some energy to win next week, and we're going to need them for the next 2 matches. But I think we will blow them away. Maybe it won't be exhilarating, I don't think, but I think maybe 1 or 2-0 next week. Maybe a bit nervy as well.
I think there is a sense at this stage of the season, if you're fighting on multiple fronts, that, we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? You go back to Leicester's title winning season, because this was a really extreme example of it, where they won that row of games. I think it might be 4 games in a row where they won them all 1-0. They started managing games in a kind of, in a very different way, where it made it cagey and it made it very low risk. And part of me is hoping that is that this approach is a sort of seasonal thing, where it's like, if you're going to fight on all of these fronts, you've got to manage everything really carefully and limit the risk as much as you can in these games. And hopefully we'll play ourselves into a situation where come the spring, the shackles will be off a little bit and we'll be really, really in the groove. And I know I keep saying this, but I do think there is going to come a point where the big games keep coming. You're going to need to be ruthless in moments. And to be ruthless in moments, you have to create chances. And, we're kind of not quite firing on all cylinders when it comes to that. So we've not been beaten. I think that's really good. Going into this at 1-1 is a completely different prospect from going into it at 1-0. It will affect how Leverkusen come and play. I doubt they would set up to try and just throw everyone behind the ball for 90 minutes, but you don't know. It certainly leaves them in a situation where they have to come out and play a bit more, and that suits us better at home.
That's a great point, because they can't really change the way they play today. I don't think they're especially away from home, they're not a low block sort of team. They're not a team that are going to, set up to have, the bank of 5 in front of the back 3, whatever it is. They're going to need to play like they did tonight. And at home, that's a far better position for us to be in. That's a far better game state for us to be in because we can exploit that with our fans behind us. It was an away match early. I don't like them early kickoffs either.
No.
We didn't play much better when we went to Bilbao early in the season. We won 2-0, but we didn't play much better. It was that was an early kickoff. I don't like them. It's like something, I know it's an excuse, but I know we were there. We've been in Germany since yesterday, but it just doesn't, it's not a time of day to be playing. I don't know, it's weird.
You feel like the support act.
Yeah.
To the whole Champions League.
Yeah, it feels like a Europa. Yeah, you feel like a Europa game, to be fair. That's what it felt like. So next week, normal time.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Okay, so the result wasn't terrible in the end. The performance was one we perhaps got away with a little bit. It's good to see Kai Havertz on the score sheet. It's good to see Noni Madueke make a really, really positive contribution. Again, our defenders were very good, apart from one lapse moment at a corner. So as the dust settles a little bit and we take stock of that result, I think there's a lot to take away from it that is positive.
Yeah.
Obviously, I would have hoped for a win. It's a reminder that the knockout stages of the Champions League are always difficult because if you're there in the first place, you're good. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to the next one.
100%. And I think tonight as well, it showed our squad came in clutch tonight. And that was Havertz coming off the bench and Noni. We're going to need them over the next 2 games in particular because I don't really want to think too much further ahead. Use the squad.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on The Thing About Arsenal. I'm back on Friday alongside Laura and Luke. Hit subscribe wherever you're listening or watching to make sure you don't miss it. See you soon.
See you soon.